All right, good afternoon. We're looking at 12 o'clock, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Before I introduce our guest speaker today, we want to recognize that today is Veterans Day. We'd like to take a moment to recognize all of our loved ones, friends, neighbors, and family members who have been active military members. At this time, whether you served in the past or are currently serving in the military, please stand. At this time, if you know of a loved one or a family member or friend who has been or currently is an active military member, please stand. In honor of our loved ones for their service and dedication to our country, we just take this moment to recognize them in appreciation. Thank you. Okay, today's topic is overcoming failure. Please help me to welcome Dr. Marian Dronek.
Let's try this again. Hi. Hello. Oh, there we are. There we are. For those of you that don't know me, and I feel like I don't see any familiar faces just yet from down here, my name is Dr. Marian Dronek. I am in the psychology department here at Marian University. I teach stuff like Psych 101, 105, most notably research stats, which check your majors, you might get me on that end. Research methods, I teach that as well, but I also enjoy teaching some of what I perceive to be my fun classes, which is forensic psychology, as well as a class on serial killers that discusses their modality and typologies. So my academic background is in forensic psychology. I like all the gross stuff, so murders, I did my dissertation on child sex crimes, online offenders, anything that's got gore, bring it my way. I love to discuss it because I really think that evil mind is just something to understand better so that we can better create plans, mitigate those offenses in the future. So I'm a father of two. My youngest daughter, Marian, was here today attending a couple classes. She actually presented on tornadoes in my forensic psychology class. She's getting prepped for her science project. My oldest is 16. She just started to drive, which is scarier than hell. I've been a passenger in that car, and sometimes I need therapy after that. I'm also a husband. I have a beautiful wife. She works in retail, and she kind of keeps me grounded. I do tend to get off track. I am unapologetically me, and I can be annoying at times. I got two dogs. Marla, she's 3 years old. She has currently consumed, I want to say, roughly about $370 worth of Vans shoes that I own. Continuously have to purchase new ones. We have an old dog, a Nora dog, which is she's a tree walker or a tree climber. She is known to scale a 6-foot privacy fence in our backyard just with a single leap and bound. I love Star Wars. That's one of my things, one of my jams. I love Bon Jovi's all 80s hair bands. I'm totally into that. Reality dating shows, that's kind of a thing I like to watch too. I can cook, maybe, depending. I also like to think that I am the 6th member of NSYNC because I can dance. And I do tend to talk too much, so I always tell people if I am talking too much, tell me to shut up. And because I suck at PowerPoints, and I learned that my 10-year-old is far superior than I am, here's a little bit about my family. My wife, she's in the top left, consuming an awesome margarita on a cruise ship. My 2 kids, Nora, the tan and white dog, that's our oldest. Marla, chilling with her ball. My daughter and I this morning, or not this morning, but she was here. That's us dancing in the kitchen while we're cooking dinner. And we always go to Michigan in summer for vacation, at least twice a year. And randomly, Darth Vader was sitting on the pier in Muskegon when the ship pulled in. I am one of the world's foremost experts on failure. I have 44 years and counting worth of experience. I fail daily, by the minute, by the hour. Often, it doesn't go unnoticed that I fail. I'll get emails. My wife will tell me that I'm failing at something. I am an expert at failure. And we're in college, right? So when we were writing papers, we always have to justify why we're an expert in something. So here's my evidence as my failures. I fail at looking cool. That's me on the right. Failure. Fashion, something I do not have. Look at that leather vest. That is phenomenal. I think I still have that in my closet. If any of you want like 5 extra credit points, you can wear it around for the day. Notice I have no facial hair either. Relationships. This was my first girlfriend, and me going to prom. Again, look at that fashion sense. Horrible. Don't tell my wife. I'm a failure at baking stuff. My mother, last Christmas, my mom said that you're in charge of baking a Christmas cake. That's what I came up with. This is, I think, my favorite one. So we went to Disney and this last Christmas, and my 16-year-old hates roller coasters. My 10-year-old never been to Disney before, had no idea what to expect. And so we're walking up to the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. I'm like, you know what? This is easy. Let's go on this. This is a good introductory coaster for my little one. That's what she looks like during the middle of the ride. My other daughter screaming her guts out. But that was the most prized picture that I could get from the whole entire trip, was her screaming bloody murder. Success on that one. Convincing them to go on. But failure, to me, I love failing. Every day I love failing because at least I know what right isn't. But in everyday terms, failure is the inability to meet a standard or achieve an obstacle. None of you have had me in class. So what obstacle have you not achieved recently? Calling you out, man. This is a room of truth and trust. The trust room. Keep it PG. Maybe coming with an answer for right now. I'll come back to you. What about you?
I finished remodeling my parents' house.
How did you fail that? That sounds like a success.
Failed? Okay. Well,
How did you fail?
I don't know.
No?
There's just obstacles and that I had to overcome.
What were some of the obstacles?
Like rerouting electrical and stuff,
Oh,
plumbing and stuff. Nothing like major, but
did you reroute electrical?
yeah, with my dad.
I would probably shock myself. I don't trust myself with anything electrical at that point in time. I've seen you around. How did you fail? Or not achieve an obstacle recently?
Well, I tore my ACL playing volleyball.
Come down a little bit hard?
It's all right.
Gotcha. Our failures every day can be very minor, such as, well, that's a sports injury. But dude over here couldn't come up with a failure for recently. So do you have one now? All right, what you got?
I didn't do well on a history quiz.
Cool. What do you do better next time?
Do the reading and study harder.
Perfect. And that's the kind of mindset that we want to have moving forward is when we fail, yeah, it happens, but how you overcome that and pick yourself up is the real gem to all of this. But psychologically, so we have to try to think about, not only what what failure is, what failure can be, but we have to start thinking about what does that do for us from both like a biological perspective. So what does our body respond, or how does that affect what we're thinking about failure, or how our future behaviors are? We have to think about our social influences. So I sure as heck know that I'm probably going to get made fun of for days by Professor Craig for this wardrobe choice that I had back in my teens. So is there a social influence on how I feel about my future wardrobe? Or about how I make cakes? Or it's the emotional aspect. So what do we feel as a person when we fail? You know, there's also cultural perceptions that come into play. These are things that we have to be mindful of when we start thinking about what have we failed and what we're going to do next. And just like Buddy over here said, he failed an exam, but he already has success on his mind because he knows what he did wrong to prevent that from happening in the future. So we have to use that. We have to think about that as personal growth too. Use those opportunities to enrich ourselves, understand our surroundings, understand ourselves better. We have to use that every failure as personal growth. So, from a biological standpoint, generally speaking, our brain, our supercomputer, does not like it when it thinks that we are not going to survive. So it treats failure, or at least it tries to manipulate us to think of failure as a threat to survival. Most of the time, our fear, our anxieties, all that kind of stuff is controlled by the amygdala. It's a little thing in our brain, goes off when we're going down roller coasters. That amygdala right there is firing, like on a scale of 1 to 100, that's like 110. The amygdala is saying, this is not cool, I think I might die. But at the same time, our brain interprets the failure as a threat to our person, but it's really being based off how we emotionally or psychologically feel about what we're going through. So one of the big hormones that's released when we are afraid or we're fearful is cortisol. That is the stress hormone. That's going to raise up our blood pressure. Sweat glands are going to start to secrete. So our body is kind of saying, ooh, that is not cool. When I came and asked you a question about what you failed at, did you feel your body start to go through a little bit of a change? Yeah? Maybe your face feels a little red, a little hot. Your brain starts thinking, it's not thinking quick enough because you want that response right now, and it's just not giving it to you because you're thinking, all these people here, quiet, eyes are on you. So yeah, your body is starting to say, hey, I don't like this. I think I'm going to be threatened, not necessarily like by a gun or anything harmful like that, but egos, our own personal thoughts. That's our threat. Dopamine, that starts to take a dive. None of that's being released. So the neurotransmitter that's associated with like pleasure, reward, not happening, making you miserable, making you sad. So I still fail every day. I gave my phone to my wife and I said, could you remind me of all the things that I have failed recently? And she took a picture of this because I fail at closing items every day. Every day I walk around the house. This morning I had my coffee can, the lid was off. I put new coffee in, never secured the lid, and then as I'm walking through the kitchen, she flips the lid at me and says, "You're going to have, dried out coffee." The dog treats are another example of that. But then we have to start thinking about social influences. I have not fixed this yet, so I guarantee you on Wednesday, next time you see me, I will still have bags of something open around the house. Social influences. Society has a major influence on how we perceive and handle failure. This has increased recently with like TikTok, social media. We're always comparing ourselves against what other people look like. We're comparing body comparisons. Social influences have a major effect on how we perceive ourselves, and then furthermore, how we handle failure. Like, did you know you're being recorded up there? How do you feel now, knowing that your 30 seconds of fame are going to be forever engraved and filmed somewhere? Even better? Doubtful. But yeah, it affects how we think and how we perceive what we're doing. Cultural norms often equate failure with incompetence or inadequacy, pushing individuals to fear not meeting societal expectations. I remember one of the first days that I taught here at Marian. I was wearing my standard blue jeans, Vans, a t-shirt, and sitting in the classroom just kind of getting acclimated. And one of the students walks in, sits down, and she looks at me and she goes, "Yeah, are you a returning adult student?" And I said, "Kinda." And so she sat back and she's like, "Did you get the book for this class? Did you do this? Did you do this?" And I was like, "Yeah, I got the book. I'm fine." Just playing it off a little bit. And then she goes, "I've never heard this professor before. Don't know what to expect from him. Do you?" And I go, "Kinda. I kind of get it. What's going on?" So class fills in. Everyone starts taking their seats. And I get up, kind of start manipulating the PowerPoint and kind of going through the class and my expectations. And a year later, that same student walks back up to me and she goes, "Dude," she goes, "I totally thought you were like a bodyguard and had no idea that you were an actual faculty member." So I kind of took that as a failure because maybe I wasn't presenting myself in a professional way. But as I said at the beginning, I am unapologetically myself. I don't like suits, I don't like ties, I don't like wearing any of that stuff. I don't feel comfortable, so I'm gonna do me. But other people have those perceived notions that professors should be, in the old days, back in the 90s, they were wearing suits and ties and kind of looked like Indiana Jones going on secret missions everywhere. But yeah, that's not the way that society has rolled and evolved. So even I was perceived to be something different because of how I dress, because of my fashion attire. And maybe I failed in that moment to that student to be a little bit more professional. But again, like I said, I am me, and you can either like me or hate me. Don't care. Cultural norms. We just kind of covered that. And I want to take like 5 minutes. I'm going to give you 5 minutes to think on your feet. What are some of the social influences that contribute to your sense of failure? The answer to this quiz is I will walk around and ask you a question. So I'll give you 5 minutes to think about this. You can converse with your peers. 30 seconds, wrap it up. Good job. All right, time's up. I hope we talked. Got a little cozy, understanding social influence. What's up, dude?
What's up?
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Fantastic.
That's great to hear.
So what are some social influences that you and your buddies over here came up with that affect your perception of failure?
Just trying to be like someone else, try and put a higher standard to yourself than what you actually are.
Can you give me an example of where that might come into play?
So when you're doing the classwork the best you can and you try and say, oh, I can do better than everyone else, even when you already have 100%.
Gotcha.
So you're
Understand.
trying to keep giving yourself a higher standard, but you don't need to do that.
I like where you're coming from. Excellent work. Excuse me. Nice Crocs. You got sandals and shorts. So what are some social influences you guys came up with?
I came up with Instagram.
Okay. How can Insta shape your perception of failure?
Sometimes you pretty much just always got a camera on you. You don't even know it.
Is that weird?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to watch what I say. So give me an example of where something that you've seen on Insta might shape.
I don't think you want to.
Is it above PG-13?
Yeah.
Can you keep it PG?
Car accidents.
So watching other people's car accidents.
Yeah.
I'm gonna need to see you in my office at about 12 for a psych eval. Dr. Favor.
Yeah, what's up?
How about you? How does society influence you?
Well, I would say sometimes family perceptions or how our family perceives us, or might not be our immediate, but our next level of family, what they expect.
Really? I enjoy the family perspective because that was something that influenced me in my perception of failure in myself. I did normal undergrad college. I was in law enforcement for 15 years. I had a brain surgery, and my mom said, she looks at me and she goes, you know what? I don't know what you're gonna do with the rest of your life because you can't work anymore, you can't be a cop anymore, so what the hell are you gonna do with your life? And I was like, you know what, you're kind of right. And so I had about a year and a half, 2 years worth of recovery. Due to my brain surgery, I couldn't drive, I could work, but I had to have it was just an inconvenience for everyone. So I ended up sitting back and 2 weeks into my recovery, I've already watched Star Wars every episode at least 7 times. And I'm kind of I'm getting sick of this. So at the end of the day, I'm like, what else can I do? So I started looking up online colleges so that I could do something else with my life other than this. So I got enrolled, did the college thing, and my mom's like, you know what, that's the worst decision. Why would you want to be a teacher? Why would you want to go into college and like teach or do anything like that? Because they don't make a lot of money, yada, yada, yada. Really made me feel inferior. And she put a lot of pressure on me. And so one day I was like, you know what? I'm going to go and get my PhD. And I called her trying to look for like mother's approval. And she's like, you're never going to complete that. She's like, I heard it was so hard. You're not going to do it. You're going to waste a ton of your money. And you're just, at the end of the day, going to fail. And I said, I hung up the phone, used some adult language as to how I felt about her and her statements. And I signed up and I went to school. And when I graduated, I sent her a copy of my diploma. And I said, well, you can now call me, Dr. Sun or whatever, because she really didn't support me through that whole process. She was very adverse to me going to get more schooling and pursuing teaching. So yeah, thank you, Dr. Favor, for that, because that really hit home for me. That was one of my bigger motivators to get the academic degree that I have. So I appreciate that. I want to get a couple more because we have time. Who doesn't want to get called on? Raise their hand. Trick question. How about you?
So I would say, like, I don't know, it's like kind of personal, but like being in recovery and doing so many things in life later than most people.
Okay. So being in recovery and having maybe some of those experiences
Yeah.
while others are going through it now, you're going through a little bit later in life. Is that more of like a intimidation on your behalf, or?
No, I just feel like I wasted a lot of my life.
And what'd you learn from that? The Cliff Notes version.
Life's short. Do it.
Do it?
Yeah.
Perfect. So as we can kind of see from some of the answers here, we have Instagram, we have family, we have maybe some past history or past decisions that influence how we determine failure or what we perceive failure is. Here's another failure of mine. The towel on the right is the one that I folded, and the towel on the left is the one that she folded, and I got scolded for folding the towel that way because she likes her towels folded a certain way, and I'm like, I just do it this way. And because she works in retail, she kind of understands how to do all those fancy, shirt folds and whatnot. And I can tell when she does the laundry because I look like I have t-shirts that are properly hung and they are table ready at Target, if you will. But she does a great job of folding towels. She just says they're more compact and I can put them in the towel shelf much easier. And I'm like, who cares? We're all going to use them anyway. So emotional aspects of failure, this stuff can invoke a cocktail of emotions. So we can run from everything from being disgust and being sad, shame, frustration are a couple of emotions that we can feel when we are part of failure or we think that we have failed. And one of the things that we get concerned about, or at least we have to be cognizant of, is that sometimes these feelings are long-term. Sometimes these feelings can extend for a longer period of time. And we have to figure out a way to resolve some of those emotions that we feel. They're okay in the moment. I get it. But at the end of the day, we have to, put our big people's pants on and, continue on with life. Just like Buddy over here said, didn't do so well on an exam. He's going to put his big boy pants on and study for the next one and probably ace that puppy. You haven't graded it yet? Grade it now. Grade it now. Let's have a success at the end of the day. It affects our self-esteem over the long term. One Of the issues that I see with this is failure creates barriers. I don't like public speaking, but I still get up here. As I was telling one of your peers back there, I'm like, I already thought that I've failed because no one has laughed at my bad pictures from when I was a kid. It was a quiet room, and I'm like, ooh, wrong crowd for this. You know, but I felt like a failure. But now I've determined that, well, who cares, and I'm moving on. At least the next time I present this, if I ever present it again, you know, I'm gonna use some even more detrimental pictures to my emotional well-being to, I have no shame at the end of the day. I don't care. Emotional well-being over time. We need to buck up and move on. We can be sorry for ourselves for a limited amount of time, but then we need to figure out that path and overcome some of those barriers. When I was in law enforcement, the captain of the detective bureau, he was a military man. At that point in time, he was in the Marine Reserves, and on his desk, he had a 60-second egg timer. And every time one of us, you know, in the detective bureau were, you know, upset about a case, or, you know, maybe so-and-so rubbed us the wrong way in the field and we were a little pissy, he would sit down, he would say, you want me to start the timer? I said, yep. Put the timer on. He sat there quietly for 60 seconds, listened to me, discuss what went wrong or how upset I was about this, that, or whatever. And as soon as that bell rung, completely cut the conversation and kicked me out of the office. That taught me to not compartmentalize, but at least to understand that it's okay to bitch and moan, to feel upset, to, you know, have the armpit sweats and the red face because we think we're embarrassed or frustrated. But give yourself a time. He always gave us 60 seconds, and that's kind of what I give myself, you know, today is you got 60 seconds to feel bad about it, but then we have to move on because the world keeps spinning. It doesn't stop for us. And we're the people that are going to make those changes in the world, so we need to be present and overcome those barriers. So some of the things that we can do. We can have some growth mindset. And part of that is reframing or transforming how you see failure and what that failure means to you. I would like my friend over here that's going to ace Dr. Zaramba's test in the future here. How many of you have failed an assignment within this last term, just so that he knows he's not alone? You know what? It's absolutely 100% okay to fail. I bet you everyone with their hands up is going to do something different about it the next time they're faced with that, especially as we come up to the end of term. It's okay to fail. Be kind to yourself at the end of the day. You know, understand that you are a human being and that we make mistakes. We overlook things. I'll give you my failure. I'll be honest about this. I had a junior, senior level student, and I didn't get the memo that Math 001 didn't count for 3 credits at the end of their graduation cycle. And so I failed them as an academic advisor, not understanding the complexities of some of these non-credit classes, especially when they're coming into the university. And so, unfortunately, my mistake cost them an extra term here. And they couldn't take a summer class to make it up. They had to come back and do another term. So I failed at that. However, I now have a nice little sticky note next to my computer that says Math 001 doesn't count for credits at the end of the day, even though it shows up as credits on your transcript. I learned, I felt bad, I owned it, I apologized, and I moved on. I know I failed. I failed another person instead of just myself, which makes it even worse. But I owned it and moved on. And I used that for my own personal growth and improvement because I sat out and I said, I'm going to go and talk to the smartest people about advising and say, hey, give me the cheat sheet on all the stuff that no one else knows so I can't screw up again in the future. But I was also kind to myself. I get it. I've only been here for 3 years. I've only had to do academic advising a handful of times. I don't know the nuances. I get it. I'm going to be kind to myself and give myself some grace. Social connections. We all have friends here. We have peers. We have family members. We have all these different connections that we have. You know, even faculty members, you guys are considered part of those connections. We've already lived X amount of years beyond what you have, so we might already have the answers to the exam of life. But make those connections with us, those peers. So when you do fail, you feel comfortable talking about, hey, I screwed up, this is the deal, and that way we can help walk you through it. We can kind of be that support structure that you need, or your friends can be that, your family. Those support structures can all enhance and lower some of those emotions, those frustrations that we may have when we fail. Reinforce success. This is an important one. When you win, you win, and I'll take a victory lap for anything. I did it. Yeah, see, thank you for the clap. I appreciate it. Yep. I sat back and I said, you know what? I'm going to do this myself. And I'm going to be a big boy, and I'm going to fold a towel the way that she wants it to be folded. And I did. I made it right. And you know what I did after that? I ran around the house with my arms up, and I said, I can fold towels now like an adult. Celebrated it. So this is generally where I go off on a tangent. I want you guys to sit back and understand that failure is natural. One of the comments that I have told students in the past is fail, but fail well. And to me, that means that you understand and acknowledge that you're not going to create that, you're not going to cross that goal or that objective every single day that you live. But when you do fail, we do it with grace, and we pick ourselves up with purpose. We say, yep, this happened, I'm fixing this, and I'm going to move forward with my life. When you fail those exams, yep, life sucks. When you have those, when you have breakups in relationships, or any of those other obstacles that you come through, as long as you pick yourself up and you move forward and just have forward progress, to me, that's a success. My in-class example of that is in Psych 101, I'm trying to teach you how to use APA citations and format within a paper. I have zero expectation that any of you are going to be masters of APA format, because I'm not an expert at it. I am not an English teacher or anything like that. But I'm going to call you out when you don't do an in-text citation the right way. But I'm not going to ding you as long as the next time I see improvements. Maybe you add the comma, or maybe you add the Zaramba et al. 1989 the right way instead of everyone's last names for his 13-person paper. Yeah, I don't expect that. But as long as you're moving forward, I'll accept your past mistakes as those little stepping stones. See, no one laughed at you in the back row. I see you sleeping. Hi. But yeah, learn to love failure. It's absolutely the greatest thing in the world. You wouldn't be sitting right here in these seats if you have not failed, and the course corrections that you made, were on purpose. You did the right thing. You're sitting here, and it's okay to fail. As someone that likes to do research, I love it when I don't get something statistically significant with my t-tests or ANOVAs. Why? Because at least I know the different direction to go in. I know this is not the area, the part of the sandbox I want to play. We're going to go somewhere else. I absolutely love failure. I love it when my wife calls me out on my BS at home, because it makes me a better person. I love it when I have conversations with my faculty or my faculty peers, and they give me some constructive criticism. I love it because contrary to popular belief, I am not all-knowing. So I don't get those things. But learn to love failure. Fail every day. Make it a good failure when you do. And that's kind of all I got. I failed at the length of this as well. I could have gone another 10 minutes, but I did not. Dr. Farvor, do you have anything that you'd like them to do? Oh, yeah.
So I think one thing to be thinking about is, from the sense of failure, sometimes admitting that we failed can be uncomfortable. There can be some components that we might not want to admit that we failed. So this week, we're going to be really exploring a little bit as it relates to your final project of if your end career doesn't work out the way you think it should be, what might else you do? What would you do? What could you do if, let's say, your dream is to be a nurse, but you can't pass the nurse entrance exam into the School of Nursing here at Marian, aka the HESI. And so there's, along the way, the potential points for failure could happen. And we want you to be thinking about, what else could I be doing? Because like every failure allows for some other, door to open. And just like Ryan, explained, you heard his many career choices. He wasn't, isn't on the police department anymore. He's with us. So I think life will give you zigs and zags. So we want you to be exploring that. And even if you're like, nope, I absolutely know what I'm going to do, I still want you to consider that, because if that be the case for me, I'd be a consultant in Chicago making big time bucks. And I completely went a different route. So I think there's points in time where you're going to zag when you thought you were going to zig.
All right, I got one more good story about the zagging. I said I have a good story about zagging when I probably should have zigged,
Okay.
or as the Spice Girls would say, a zig a zig ah. Nonetheless, I'm not that old. All right, so I'm 44 going on 16, so I still think farts are funny. That's my thing, right? I still laugh every time it happens. So here's my recent failure from two weeks ago, another good one. So I'm in one of my classes, and I happen to not be wearing socks that day because I was flying out of the house too quick. So I'm in my white shoes, as I am now, and I'm walking around class, and I'm talking, giving a lecture, and all of a sudden, just the way that I walked, my shoe let out a squeak like it was a very high-pitched fart. And so I'm right by this student, and the student kind of looks at me like odd, and I'm like, I'm doubling down on this. And so now I'm like trying to play my shoe to like make it sound like the squeak again. And lo and behold, that was the worst decision ever, because now as I was walking around the class, it was like walking farts. One of the students called me out. They're like, do you need to use the bathroom? I'm like, no, it's my shoes, seriously. So I should have zigged when I should have zagged, or I zigged when I should have zagged. But I own it. And that was my funniest moment so far this term. Thank you again. You guys have a great one.